Hello, how are you? This is Resilient Lives coming to you to touch base with you. It is pouring outside, and so that's the weather news from Chicago. But just wanted to touch base and see how you're doing. I mean, it is beautiful outside when you look at what's budding. We used to say April showers bring May flowers. Of course, that was pre-pandemic. Now the focus is on pandemic, and so we don't really focus on the little novelties like the budding trees and the rains bringing the greenness, because we're so focused on this silent pandemic. So how are you doing? I'm just coming in to touch base with you, just to send a little love, to connect with you as we are on this journey to thrive. And it is Wednesday. Some would say that we are midweek. We've made it through hump day, and that's a good thing since we are counting the days, right? But just wanted to say I saw always Dr. Fauci is on the news giving us an update, and with every update we're reminded to observe our protocols, and so that is keeping us focused at this time. We want to remain focused. So one day we will come out of this, but for now we're just walking a balance beam. And I don't even know what would make me think of a balance beam, but it seems to me like I'm walking this tightrope, and I'm trying to balance, trying to keep my balance, not slip to the right or to the left, trying to make sure that I'm observing all protocol. I'm wiping and spraying and keeping my hands out of my face, which is interesting, but doing a lot of washing. And this is the challenge that we have with balancing. And when I think of tightrope or balance beam, I think of Simone Biles. Can you imagine? She is the most decorated gymnast in America. And when she's walking that beam, she is totally focused. I can't even imagine how she even does that. I mean, before she dismounts into those double twists and double dismounts and all of those things, until that time that she's ready to dismount, she is totally focused and disciplined. I can't even imagine being on a balance beam, but in my mind, it kind of made me think about there was a time in my younger life when I walked in my sleep, and that was a scary time. I don't know what prompted that, but I walked in my sleep. I was young, and I had a brother. And of course, the next morning when I went outside to play, all of the kids were pretending to be walking in their sleep. So obviously it was not my little secret anymore. It was all over the neighborhood that obviously I had walked in my sleep. But this is not the time to even think about walking in your sleep. Sometimes we think about sleepwalking when we're thinking about just sleepwalking through life, meaning that we're just on auto control. We're not really paying attention. We're just kind of letting life lead us. This is not the time to be sleepwalking through life. This is not the time, even if we're considering being on this balance beam. And so it just sort of brings to mind what we were talking about yesterday, a little bit about grit again, because it is grit that Simone Biles must have grit, because she's committed. She has that stick-to-itiveness and that perseverance, all those things that it takes to stay on focus. Now, grit, which we talked about a little bit yesterday, is passion and perseverance. But it's also a study that was conducted, and I think they were using veterans and cadets and people in the military, and they were just observing the attributes that they had, the things that allowed them to keep going no matter what. And all of these things related to attitude and being able to stay the course and not to be distracted, and all these things that are important. And this is what we want to do now, because with each step that either the government or our medical people are telling us, we're being reminded that we're not out of the woods yet, but we can live a balanced life. I don't know what the balance beam represents in your life, since I have all these things that I try to consider. I want to stay healthy. I want to stay connected to people. I want to have my mind right. I want to be positive and optimistic. I want to have hope, which is what we talk about. Hope is something that keeps us forging on. We know that we're going to make it, because that hope in us is so strong. And so while we're on this beam, we know I'm not going to fall off this beam, because if I fall, then I'm going to get up. Each time I fall off, or, because things will happen that sometimes you'll make a mistake. But we're all about hope. We're all about staying together. We're all about checking on each other. If we even think that someone has fallen, then we're here to pick each other up. I was feeling a little, I don't know, some kind of way, a little sad. And I got a call, and I was thankful for the call, because I thought, well, what's going on? And my grandson said, well, it's a rainy day. It's overcast. It's just one of those days you just want to curl up in the bed. But we, in spite of whatever is going on, the weather is probably not the big thing here, although weather does impact you. Yesterday I sat out in the sun, and the weather had a way of helping me to relax. Today it's dark and gloomy, and so then we look for different ways to feel better, to find our joy, to visit our little toolkit bag, to find some way to flip that sadness. And so I put on the soundtrack from The Lion King. I thought that will do it. That will snap me out. But whatever it is, we want to remember that we have to keep our joy. We're going to get through this. We have each other. We're touching base almost every day. You have your vital friends. We're thriving. In spite of the fact that we're continuing to be sheltered in, the reason for that is because we want to be safe. And so I don't want you to let your attention slide. I want you to stay focused, as if you were Simone Biles on this balance beam. And if, like me, you might fall, then you get up and you keep getting up, because that's what it takes to make it through this time and each time. I mean, here we've been through issues and crises and traumas before, and whenever they've happened in our lives, on our jobs, wherever it has occurred, certainly we've got up, dusted ourselves off, and kept on moving because we will succeed. So I just want to tell you that I love you. Keep the faith. Keep on moving on with that hope. And remember, we got this. Have a good night.